Welcome back. In this video, I'd like to talk about the philosophy of improvisation. So this is going to be a talkative video. Most of my videos, for those of you who know me, are very practical and hands-on, but I'm really going to play very little in this video. What I'd like to do is talk to you about how should you approach learning to improvise. This is a question that many beginning musicians ask themselves. As you watch your favorite musician and you see him running up and down the keyboard or playing the guitar, it seems very effortless. So he seems to come up with these musical ideas on the fly and string them together into meaningful solos. And many people, when they start learning how to improvise, they take a path which I personally find incorrect. And the idea of the path is to learn scales and licks. So for example, you might say, okay, I have a C major chord in my left hand, so I'm going to play the C major scale. And then you might have a D minor chord, D minor 7, then you'd say, okay, I'm going to play the D minor scale, or one of the modes. And then you progress to combining this with, say, chords, arpeggiating the chords themselves. So you have a C major chord, and you start to arpeggiate it. So and so forth. I find this approach to be musically and intellectually offensive, because what you're doing is you're trying to memorize tricks for something that is supposed to be a creative outlet. Now these tricks will many times make you sound good. And many people, and I have a suspicion that most improvisers reach the state where they can string these ideas fast enough together or come up with these tricks for arpeggiating chords and playing scales that they actually sound really good. And they can play it fast, and it sounds sophisticated, so they kind of let it be at that. My own approach to learning how to improvise is radically different. And to be honest, I can't say I've mastered it myself. But it's my own personal opinion that anyone learning to improvise should take this approach if they're really serious about their craft and their music. So learning how to improvise has, in my opinion, 3 steps. And the steps are composition, ear training, and technique. And I'll show you how they all fit together. The first part, which is really the heart of improvising, is composition. And by that I mean, what you have to do at the first step as you learn to improvise is not improvise at all. Take a chord progression that you're interested in. Sit down with a piece of paper and a pen, or whatever way you prefer to compose, and write down or compose a solo. At this point, you're not even aiming at improvising anything on the spot. On the contrary, you should take your time and think about what would make a musically meaningful solo, and write it down, and then do it once, put that particular composition aside, and do it again, and compose another piece. And this part really requires you to think musically and to listen to other artists and to try to analyze what they do and understand what part of their music actually motivates you and what part of their sound or vocabulary you want to assimilate. Because the truth is, if you can't compose sitting down when you have all of the time in the world, there's no way on earth that you're going to be able to do it on the fly in a show when you're performing or whatever. So the first step is to really learn to compose offline, in a sense. So learn to compose when you don't have a time constraint, when you don't have to come up with ideas on the fly. The second step is to ear train. Now, once you've learned to compose and you have built yourself some basis of ideas, you should be, at this point, learning to come up with them faster and faster. So you're learning to compose at a faster and faster pace. And now, whatever you're hearing in your mind, you're going to have to make a reality. And making it a reality means you have to first hear it in your mind, and then you have to figure out on the fly which notes, that music that you hear in your head, or that solo that you hear in your head, which notes does it contain? And you're going to have to actually train your ear to do this. So for example, suppose you have this particular progression, which is a simple 2-5-1, and what you're doing as you're improvising, you're really composing on the fly. And a good way to do this, by the way, is to sing. So for example, I might be singing in my mind, and excuse my singing voice because I don't really have any. So now what I have to do is immediately translate it into notes. And I could do that because I've trained my ear to translate the notes I'm hearing in my head to actual notes on the piano. This is the second step. And the third step is technique, because even if you hear the solo, you compose it in your head, and you can translate it into actual notes, you still need the technique to actually play those notes. So when I played this, my technique was good enough to actually execute those notes that I knew I was going to play. So I knew that I had to play G, E, C, E, 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 D, E, D, C. And I could actually play them. Of course, this was not technically very demanding, but as your solos pick up speed and you build confidence and you can become even faster, getting the technique part down becomes more and more challenging. Of course, you need to be able to do it in all different keys and different positions and so forth. So these are the three steps that I think need to happen for you to become a successful and intellectually honest improviser. You need to learn to compose. You need to be able to compose on the fly. Then you need to be able to translate the melody you hear in your head into actual notes. And then you need to be able to execute those notes. And you do that by training your technique. So train your mind, train your ear, and train your hands. That's all I had to say about improvisation. I'm sorry for not being my usual applicative self. I thought it would be a good idea to have this kind of philosophical video that embodies my own approach to improvising. I really hope this has helped you kind of think of your approach to improvisation in a new light, and hopefully also improved, or will help improve in the future, the way you train yourself, the way you learn, the way you improvise, and ultimately your music. That's it. I'll see you next time. I promise to be more practical in my next video. See you guys.